Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year and Happy January. I'm Shannon, the moderator of PDN Live tonight, and our topic tonight is going to be really fun. There's four of us tonight. It's the Insider's Look at SHOT Show, which happened last week. It was Tuesday through Friday. As always, we have Rob Pincus with us and our special guest, Shawn Herrin from We Like Shooting and Barret Kendrick from Bearco Training. So, Rob, how's it going? How's been your new year so far, and what are you up to?
It's been great. Let's see, started out the year with a class in California. Wanted to go out there and see what was going on with all the crazy politics out there, and that was good. That was a good trip. So we did a class in Central California to kick the year off, and then obviously SHOT Shows we're going to be talking about tonight, and we're a lot of cool things, a lot of cool gear, a lot of good meetings as usual. SHOT Show is usually when we start dotting the I's and crossing the T's for the upcoming training tour. So we'll be kicking that off at the end of March down in Florida. I think March 17th, 18th, something like that is maybe the first class down at the home range in St. Augustine, Florida. And as usual, going all across the country. We think we might actually hit 75 classes between me and the other contributing instructors. And we've got some really exciting new sponsors for the tour that we'll be talking about probably in the February PDN Live event. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with these guys tonight. It's great that they could join us. I'll let them introduce themselves here in a second, but Barret Kendrick and I go way back. Of course, he also works for ICE Training Company. He's a contributor to Personal Defense Network, but he runs Bearco Training, and he spent a lot of time at SHOT Show really on his own. We don't get to spend a bunch of time with our friends at SHOT Show. In fact, I didn't even see you, Shannon, this year. First time our paths didn't even cross. 70,000 people, and who knows how many exhibitors and other people that aren't even exhibiting that you're there to do business with. It's a lot of running around and very busy. So I'm actually interested to hear what he saw, even though we talk just about every day. We haven't talked much about what he saw at SHOT Show when we weren't hanging around together. And Shawn Herrin. Shawn Herrin and I have really just become friends the last, I don't know, I think we've formally met like 6 months ago or less. Shawn came through a combat focus shooting class. Of course, he's the face of We Like Shooting. He's got a great team there. So he puts out a lot of information about shooting and the shooting industry. He's definitely into training in the defensive side like we are at PDN, but I think he probably brings a broader view than people normally get at PDN about gear and some of the trends inside of the shooting industry. So I thought it'd be cool to have him join us tonight. So it's great to have both you guys, and I'll let Shannon throw it to you guys to say hi.
Yeah, definitely great to have both these guys here. Barret, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in the industry, and tell us how long you've been going to SHOT Show.
Sure. I run a training company out of Covington, Louisiana. Teach a lot locally, also kind of travel around and teach as well. I got into the industry in regards to being a full-time instructor several years ago. I've been in about 8 years now. And ultimately, what was the other question? I've already.
How long have you been going to SHOT Show?
Oh, that's right. I think I was trying to figure that out the other day. I'm pretty sure this was my 6th year at SHOT Show, although I did skip one somewhere in there.
Nice, nice. And if people want to contact you or connect with you after the show, where can they find you on the internet or social media?
Sure, they can pretty much, Google Bearco Training and find me there. They can also email me directly at Barret, B-A-R-R-E-T, at Bearco Training, B as in boy, E-A-R-C-O training.com.
Awesome. And Shawn, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And can I just say, you kind of get like the award for the most professional looking background of a PDN Live. So tell us a little bit about yourself, as well as how long you've been going to SHOT Show.
Let's see. So like Rob said, I do run We Like Shooting, and We Like Shooting is probably a little different from the stuff that people usually see on PDN Live. We are a comedy podcast about guns. So, we have a lot of fun. We say a lot of horrible things, and, but at the end of the day, we take it very, very seriously. I am an instructor, but I'm more than an instructor. I am a student. I take medical training and defensive shooting training, carbine, pistol, whatever, very, very seriously. Teach it sometimes, but more than anything, I am a student of everything, whether it be guns, gear, whatever. I've been going to SHOT Show. This is our 4th year as We Like Shooting. The first year was 2 of us, and then we've taken a consistently bigger crew every single year. This year we took a crew of 5 and did tons of coverage, and just honestly just have a great time looking at all the cool new stuff. That's kind of what we're about, is guns, gear, gadgets, things like that. And we're really excited about it, and we have a ton of fun doing it.
Cool. I'm looking forward to picking your brain on what you saw and what you thought was cool. Rob, I think you kind of have seniority here on how long you've been going to SHOT Show. I know this was my 10th one. I think this was Rob's 20th or 21st. Am I right?
21st, yeah, 97. It's and you got to do the math weird, but 97 was my first one, and that makes this number 21.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know about SHOT Show, can you kind of go into what it is and what it's about?
Yeah, so the Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show, National Shooting Sports Foundation, the trade industry organization for people who are inside the industry, and they really primarily, I would say, during the 20 plus years I've known of them, focus on the retailer, and they really want to facilitate the relationship between the retailer and the manufacturer, the retailer and the consumer, and really empower guys that own gun shops into having better customer service and being able to get credit card processing done well, and how to set up their displays and their aisles and their shelves, like all that really good solid retailer information, I think really is the core of what they do. But they've expanded so much, especially in the last 10-15 years. They've got the First Shots program. They're starting to speak out a lot more on the politics. They've kind of always been there in the background as an advocacy group for the people involved in the shooting industry and the way certain government restrictions might affect our ability to do business, and as far as ammunition manufacturing or types of ammunition that are allowed in different areas or on public lands, things like that. But I think they've really stepped up their game in terms of reaching out to the consumer, making their name and their organization more known to people in the gun industry, which is great. But certainly the centerpiece of what they do, I think in most people's eyes in the shooting industry, is run SHOT Show. And they've done a great job of it. And, I know some people who've been going for 30 plus years. And Rob Latham, in fact, the day we did the opening day of the SHOT Show, we did a video from the doors kind of as people started flooding past us. And he's been there, a decade longer than I have. And there's people that have been there longer than he has. So SHOT Show is a very well-established trade show. It's evolved a lot over the years as far as my sector, or our sector, Personal Defense Network sector of the industry. I remember going to SHOT Show when you couldn't show, Benchmade Knives, one of our tour sponsors last year, couldn't show automatic knives. Like the automatic knife, because they were considered police or military equipment, had to be kind of hidden at their booth. Other gun companies like H&K and Colt had to not have their full auto overtly law enforcement or police gear on the floor. And of course, as anyone involved in the industry knows, personal defense has exploded as a topic that the industry is not afraid of in the way it was maybe afraid to talk about it in the 80s and 90s. And we learned some hard lessons, really, kind of culminating in the assault weapons ban in the 1994 assault weapons ban at the federal level, that made us realize we can't talk about hunting traditions and sporting use of firearms forever and think that we're going to be able to really protect our rights. Ultimately, the use of a firearm is about defense of ourselves, defense of our family, our country, our way of life. And the industry has embraced that. NSSF certainly leading that charge and expanding the tactical law enforcement percentage of the show dramatically. It's been the fastest growing part of the show for, since they started it as a part of the show. And that's certainly the major talk and the buzz about products and about what's going on is all centered around military, law enforcement, personal defense, and the companies that provide the gear and obviously the training in that sector. So I applaud everything they've done there. And SHOT Show is just a great gathering. I didn't hear an official number this year, but I heard 70,000 thrown around. The show always grows. There was a balancing act between making sure it is legitimately industry-only people and having the show grow and bringing in new blood and bringing in people who may just be wanting to get their foot in the door into the industry, not making it a good old boys club. So it's a fine balance. And I think it's the 7th largest trade show in the country now. And that's one of the reasons it's in Vegas. There's very few cities that can handle it.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening live, by all means, if you have any questions or if anything that we're talking about sparks more thought that you want put into it, just feel free to type the question in and we'll get around to it tonight. If you have questions afterwards, you can always connect with us on Facebook at Personal Defense Network, personaldefensenetwork.com. We're on Instagram at PD Network, Twitter, P_D_N. And if you really like what you're hearing tonight, sign up for our free newsletter. You'll get a lot of cool stuff in it. We had a live question come in, Rob, if you want to kind of elaborate on this. Is it just for dealers? Is this show closed to the public? How do you get into SHOT Show?
SHOT Show is kind of for anyone who can articulate any connection whatsoever to the shooting industry and or media that might cover the shooting industry. And when I say shooting industry, I mean hunting, I mean dogs that fetch birds out of the water. I mean, clothing, off-roading, the trucks that get you into the field. It really credit card processing companies that provide services to retailers. Graphic design guys that do business cards for someone who's in the training industry. I mean, literally, the people that are walking that floor that comprise that 70,000 attendee list. And other people that are in town because they know there is everyone from the shooting, hunting, outdoor trade show industry event there. I think that it really comes down to not thinking of it as a dealer-only show or a manufacturer-only show. We're a huge industry, right? Millions of people employed, working in our industry part-time or full-time, from manufacturing floors, again, to graphic design and marketing and media and television show production. I mean, if you just take the people involved with like Outdoor Channel, for example, how many thousands of people are involved, tens of thousands of people, if you include the television shows that air on Outdoor Channel, and all of them technically could have access to SHOT Show. Everyone that works with companies like Smith & Wesson, Glock, Colt, Springfield Armory, the Beretta, Benelli, the big heavy hitters, the ammunition companies, Winchester, Remington, Federal. These are huge companies with lots of employees. Now, certainly they're not bringing 1,000 employees out to SHOT Show. They may, the biggest companies might have 100 people there. I think it's probably very few that would, but there are plenty of companies that have dozens of people there. Both in their booths. Some companies have multiple booths. Some of these booths are 80 feet by 80 feet, and it takes a week to set them up. Construction crews and cranes to come in and set up multi-level, huge screens, all that kind of stuff. So the way to get into SHOT Show is legitimately to be involved with the industry and then, make a case, explain that. I know I'm a member of NSSF. I've been a member most of the last 20 plus years. It's important. If you're going to be part of the industry, join the Industry Trade Association. Maybe you join POMA if you're in the media side, if you do a blog or if you do a video podcast or something like that. You join a professional outdoor media association, and that's how you get in. Certainly plenty of people there with media credentials who are just covering the industry. So I don't find it to be a hard show to get into if you have any ability to legitimately connect yourself to the industry. I think it's harder if you think it's a big gun show and you want to go talk to the guy at Smith & Wesson about the shield and how much you like carrying it, or you want to shop for an XD and you want to go to Springfield and talk to some guy about the trigger pull. Honestly, I get it. I understand that. I'm not saying I don't know people, maybe like myself, who've gotten people into the show because they wanted to see it years ago. But, I realize that really takes away from the event for the people that are there working and for people there that are really legitimately just getting into the industry. So it's a practice that I personally stopped a long time ago.
Yeah. So like Rob said, that it's a really unique show in that it's all the big players of the industry, as well as startup shops and everything. And there's multi-level booths and TV screens, and it's quite the sensory overload. So Barret, can you tell us about your first experience walking into SHOT Show, the very first year you went, and what you thought going into it?
Sure. When I walked in, it's so many different rooms there. You've got your large floor. I think it's Hall D, where a lot of the bigger players are. When you walk into that, and you can't find the other side of it. You can kind of go aisle to aisle, and there's just so much to take in. I think I probably spent more time just looking at things and less time actually doing business, and probably spent 4 days walking through. And I don't know that I actually saw the entire show there. So it was pretty overwhelming. To say the least. There was some things there that I was surprised to find there. And of course, excited to kind of get my hands on a lot of the newer products at the time.
And what was your goal going to this year's SHOT Show? Were you there to increase business, get more leads, see what was new?
I was there to continue to build and develop on relationships that have kind of started previously. I was there, less on really looking at the new products and handling the new products, but more on developing those relationships and trying to bring in more business for myself.
Awesome. And Shawn, can you tell us about your first experience, the very first time you stepped into the exhibits at SHOT Show, and what you thought, as well as what you were there this year to accomplish?
Yeah, so our first trip, we kind of walked in that first big room, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is so great. And we walked around and we talked to all the vendors in the entire room, and I was like, man, we kicked SHOT Show's butt. And at the end of day two, I was like, well, we're done. And then I realized that was the smallest room of all of them. And then we walked into the big room where there's a billion more vendors, and then downstairs there's 3 or 4 more rooms, and then a whole other basement area that's amazing. I mean, it was just honestly awe-inspiring in how ginormous it actually was. And it just really, really overwhelming as first-year people the first time we went. And we definitely have changed and adapted and planned better since. The first year we wanted to scoop everybody. We were a small, pretty small podcast and website and all that good stuff. And we wanted to be the first ones to get video out there. So, we were running and doing interviews and then running back up to the press room and uploading files to our editors at home. We were editing and publishing and doing all this stuff. And we really didn't scoop anybody, and we really didn't do anything. And we just kind of, got our feet wet and got our feet in the door. And, this year it's changed a whole lot for us. I'm not a huge fan of the booth interviews anymore. I don't feel that they provide a whole lot of value to our audience. But what I do think is this, as a comedy podcast about guns, is that we sell experiences, and we have to have experiences in order to sell experiences, because obviously if we don't have them, we can't really sell them very well. So what we do is, we go and we talk to existing friends and existing, just people that we know in the industry. And we try to look at the really cool products and do booth interviews for those, because we've talked about them before. And we network. We were working about 18, 19 hours a day. We were getting up at 6 in the morning, heading to the show, then going to the events afterwards to network with the people that we know and love, and getting back and then uploading video and editing video until we finally pass out. And then we do it all again in 4 hours. So, it's definitely changed. We work a heck of a lot harder than we ever did in the first couple of years. But, it's all about the content, but it's all about the networking too. And I think both of them are equally as important, and neither is mutually exclusive. So it's definitely, it's a really, really tiring week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see the fun side of it, of walking the show floor and like the fun part. But like you said, there's a lot of hours and work put into it, as well as the after hours networking. Do you want to kind of go into a little bit of the culture of the industry networking after hours, after the show floor has closed?
Yeah, there's a ton of different things. There's the really classy parties, then there's just the room parties, and everything in between. And we try to go to the ones that actually have shooting events, because that's we like shooting. So we try to shoot as much as possible. So we try not to go to the parties that are just, dress up in a blazer and look super fancy and then go to that. We try to go to the stuff where there's actual shooting, where we can actually get footage and, shoot different guns, maybe guns that are on our bucket list and things like that. But the networking events are just great, because, it's not only us and our peers, or the people that are out there in the media, whether they're our peers or not, whether it's print media or digital media or all that thing, but it's also the companies. And, we develop these relationships with companies, even if there's no monetary relationship, they just become good friends, and it's good to catch up.
Yeah, definitely. And you actually brought up a really good point that I'm surprised I didn't kick off with. And Rob, I know you have a lot of experience with this, and I've done this with you a couple of years, but the events before the show even kicks off, like the media day at the range. Rob, if you want to kind of go into a little bit of that and tell us about, what that's all about, and being able to test the new gear and everything.
Media Day, it used to be called Range. I think it was just Range Day. Then it was Media Day. Now it's Industry Day at the range, and it's actually run by a company that's hired outside of NSSF, and they do a great job. They've really made that event much more practical and approachable and valuable for the exhibitors, and probably for the media and the other industry attendees as well. Over the last few years, there's a lot of kind of booing by the old guard about the way they were setting it up, but what they've done is they've increased the number of exhibitors out there. They've increased the number of live fire ranges. They've increased the number of legit media that get to come out there. And what they did was they just made it a little harder to get in, and they started structuring when you get in and all those kinds of things a lot more than it used to be. Just kind of a free-for-all. If you could get your way down to Boulder City on the range, you could probably get in. Like SHOT Show, if you could articulate a reason to be at SHOT Show, you could get in. Media Day, Industry Day, Range Day, whatever you want to refer to it as, a little bit more controlled than it used to be. And I, as an exhibitor there, love it. I'm always on the Winchester pistol range, talking about the latest and greatest in their pistol line, and just getting people familiar with, whether it's a Defender line or whether it's maybe some specific part of the Defender line, like the 20 gauge segmented slot gun shell that people don't even really know is there until they get to the table, and then they get to see us shoot into gel. Or maybe they're having this year, there were some people out there with their first experience with a lever action. So, Winchester on the firearm side came out with an 1866 replica reproduction, really beautiful brass receiver, great gun. And we were shooting the the W line, the train side of the train and defend line. We were shooting those jacketed rounds out of it. People were having a great time with it. And we were shooting a lot of USA Forge, the high-end component American-made steel jacketed ammo, steel cased ammo with jacketed rounds and good modern primers and a coating for reliability on that steel case. So we were shooting that out of a couple different guns and just having a good time. But yeah, the range day, the industry day is definitely something that adds to the week for a lot of people. And I see a lot more footage coming out of that day than I used to. People are out there, kind of like Shawn was talking about. They're out there getting all the footage, the hands-on experience. They're talking to reps who tend to know a lot about the guns. You're not out on the range unless you really know a lot about the guns and the ammo and the gear that you're talking about. Whereas you may run into somebody at the show floor that knows a lot more about the wholesale prices and delivery schedule than they do the actual specs of the guns, because that's not their role. But the people out at the range really produce great content, especially for people doing video. A lot of articles get written about experiences out there at the range day also. So it's a really important part of SHOT Show. It's officially, I call it day 0. It's not officially part of the SHOT Show trade show, but obviously it's tied very closely to it. The evening events you talked about, I probably don't do as many of those as I used to. I used to try to kind of, hit all the important ones and everything else. And I'm much more likely to put on that sports coat or even just go right from the floor, leave the suit on and do that than run around and try to hit 1 or 2 instead of trying to hit 10 a night like the old days.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a lot of questions coming in about the gear. So let's talk about gear. Let's kind of move through different categories of gear. So Shawn, we'll start with you. What's the coolest thing you saw at SHOT Show that wasn't necessarily firearms related? Like, was it the drone that drops tear gas? What was it that was just totally wicked awesome that you saw?
Honestly, I guess maybe I'm a simple man, but some of the cool stuff that I saw was Tactical Walls. They launched a new line of their concealed tables, the RFID or magnets or whatever. So just a coffee table, and then it pops open and it's got storage for a couple ARs or handguns or whatever. End tables, nightstands, stuff like that. Like I've always really liked what Tactical Walls did. But I was really excited about the tables because, they work and they would work in my house. And it's just something that, I can integrate into my life without any kind of weirdness at all. It's not anything that anyone has to learn. It's just a coffee table, except it has extras for me.
Shawn's into coffee tables.
Apparently.
And Barret, what about you? What was the coolest non-firearm thing that you saw at SHOT Show?
Probably the coffee tables. I was actually pretty excited about them as well. But since he has already kind of mentioned that, Safer, Faster Defense, one of the PDN contributors, came out with his Responder ankle carry medical kit. I carry a medical kit at times on my ankle, trauma kit. And the one I've been carrying, it's always been noticeable to me. It's very bulky. It prints a lot through the actual pants. It's very difficult to conceal and not near as comfortable. So I kind of picked his up. I didn't know what to expect with it. Honestly, I kind of liked it. He's been putting a lot of thought into it, but I have been wearing it since then. And I'm pretty actually excited about it. So it's non-firearm related. It doesn't have to be anything to do with firearms, but yet if you do want to have a medical kit nearby, it's a pretty comfortable one.
Rob, are you modeling the ankle holster there?
I am. The ankle medical kit. I've got mine right here. The thing is, these guys stole like my answers right out of the gate. The great thing, the Tactical Walls thing, and as Shawn alluded to, it's awesome. I have a lot of Tactical Walls stuff here at the Western HQ, but this was a new construction house last year, right? So we were even during construction, we were able to install a lot of the Tactical Walls, the original products in the walls. And it's relatively easy to, as we have expanded, down in the basement and stuff, add some things, shelves and like that as we decorate a new house. But for people who already have their house, pretty well established, it may be harder for them to do that, to cut into the walls and to set things up that are sort of integrated and require installation. I was just talking to Chris from Tactical Walls earlier today about how even something like being a tour sponsor last year, it's hard to, you aren't going to go to the guy who's taking the class. You aren't going to go to his house and cut a hole in his wall and say, here, try this out. And it's very hard without the context of the home to try out a lot of those other products. But the table is something we can throw right into the training scenario areas. You know, at Bristlecone here in Colorado, at Reno Guns and Range, we're going to go ahead and throw those right into the scenarios, into our armed home defense classes, and let people experience those in a much more obviously hands-on way than they could experience some of the other tactical wall stuff. So the end table and the coffee table, I think those are going to be big sellers for them for sure. This was something I was definitely going to talk about as something I was excited about getting a lot of other people to see. I had seen it. I got one maybe a couple weeks before SHOT Show and started using it. It's one of the best made medical equipment carrying devices, well thought out, that I've ever seen. It's definitely the best ankle rig tried out. And I'm not a big fan of carrying a lot of stuff on the ankle, whether it's guns or knives or medical equipment. But if you're into that, this is definitely something you should look at. If you're not into it, but you do want a good place to go to carry the tourniquet, the pressure dressing, the chest seal, the hemostatic agent, a couple other little 2, 3, 4 things you can put in there and not really have a lot of bulk, this is definitely something to look at. And it's making me rethink the ankle carry for medical as well. So both of those.
Does it come with all that stuff in there? Or did you kit it out?
Safer, Faster is, I know they're looking into that. It was one of the reasons that he was actually at SHOT Show from a business development standpoint, was trying to form some of those relationships with some of the manufacturers and work with, collaborate with some of the people in the industry who already have those relationships. So he may be able to ship these already pre-stocked. Right now, I think they're available on his website at $50 for the launch month at least, which is a great value. If you look around and you see what else is out there and you see the way this thing's made, well done. It's taken him a while to get it to market, as I certainly understand, having been involved in some product development, and it was worth the wait. It's a very well done piece of gear there.
Awesome.
The thing that I liked the most that wasn't firearms direct related is the FACT system from Veridian. And it's another thing that I knew was coming, but hadn't actually put my hands on until we got to the SHOT Show floor, and they had it down in the Veridian booth. They had they have a micro, they have a medium size, kind of like if you're familiar with the Veridian C5 light and laser combo, that size, and then they have a larger one that's really designed for duty use, for law enforcement use, and it's a camera system that uses their instant on technology, just like with their lasers and lights. You pull it out of the holster, the light and laser are automatically on. You don't have to do anything else. And this is a camera system that starts recording sort of the muzzle's eye view of what's going on. And obviously this is going to be huge for verifying the legitimacy of defensive gun uses, and as far as officer safety and things like that in the law enforcement world. There's a bunch of different features. It's still a product that isn't quite on the market yet, but it's going to be available very soon. But that was probably the thing that I saw that I was most excited about from the floor. I know I was excited about getting my hands on it. It was the first time I got to, so that's what I'm going to go. I'm going to put my vote there. But second, the votes of Shawn and Barret.
You're not a coffee table guy.
Well, I like the in the wall stuff here, right? I think maybe as we kind of fill out the basement that we just finished, we may end up seeing one of those nightstands, one of those little end tables. I think one of those may make its way into one of those bedrooms down there. But I think the big thing about the walls is that they're going to accommodate a lot of people who said, I don't know about cutting a hole in my wall, or my wife doesn't want another shelf in the room, or whatever the logic is. Like, the table is much easier to put up kind of anywhere. And I also think that because it's going to be more useful in a training environment, it's a lot of those retail outlets that have been stocking it or been dealers of the product are now going to be able to get lots more hands-on experiences for people right there in their stores, or for the ranges that are tied to retail. Put them out in a scenario training area, put them on the range, and let people see just how fast it is to get into these things, get your defensive tools, your medical kit, your flashlight, your phone that you're going to call 911 on, whatever you've got stashed in there. I think that those tables are going to do a lot for the company. I think Tactical Walls has been growing fast the last couple of years. You're going to see products like the tables and their mod wall too. They now have like, you see these kind of for guys that have big gun rooms that are secure from unauthorized access, or their home. They may not have kids in the house, whatever. They're already secure from unauthorized access, and they have a much more than a locked vault with just guns kind of stacked in there, which is pretty much all I've got here as far as guns stacked on guns inside of these big safes. Guys that are a little bit more particular in how they display their stuff or stage equipment inside of a secure safe room are going to like the mod walls from Tactical Walls also. So it's definitely a company to keep an eye on.
Awesome. Barret, I noticed that you were kind of trying to model your ankle rig as well. Do you want to show us what you have in yours?
Sure. Mine's kind of set up. I do have a clothing cutter in there. that's stuck down in there. This is definitely not made to carry it in that pouch, so I'm still kind of testing it out to see how well it's going to work in there. So far, for the last few days, it does seem to work well. And I've got a tourniquet and an Israeli pressure bandage in mine.
Awesome.
And we'll soon be adding, that was kind of what I yanked out of another kit, but we'll soon be adding a couple of chest seals in there too.
It's funny that you guys mentioned those, because I just had one of those at my house last night. Another instructor, we came over, we did a little bit of brainstorming, and he brought one with him. It looked cool. It was a good idea. I don't usually carry anything on my ankle, but definitely I'm intrigued.
It would look weird if you're wearing shorts, Shawn.
I know, but I think I could pull it off.
Open carry, medical open carry.
Exactly. Let's make that a thing.
It'll be the newest trend of next year's show, which it's always interesting to see what's the trendy thing going on. I feel like last year it was the tactical dogs, like the Belgian Malinois and the German Shepherds. Shawn, what do you think was like the trendy flash in the pan thing this year?
Oh man, this has got to be without question for me the pistol caliber carbines. This is the year of them. Last year there was a lot of them. This year we were inundated, and we actually thought that we would see a lot more 10 millimeters, but it looks like people are just pushing out the 9 millimeters a lot more. And I think that was the absolute thing that I saw most pretty much everywhere. Some people have solved the last round hold open. Some people have not, but everyone's doing the pistol caliber carbines.
Say that 10 times really fast.
Easy for me to say.
What about you, Barret? Was there anything that you would speculate would be a flash in the pan next year, or that was a flash in the pan this year at SHOT Show?
You did notice the pistol caliber carbines, but I didn't really notice anything that stuck out. What I did notice is there were far less beards this year and far less dogs.
Far less kilts too.
Yes. So that kind of fad with the beards and the dogs and the kilts has started to fade away. So it'll be interesting to see really what comes up next. I did see a guy that had a complete entire kind of blanket that was thrown around him that was lined in patches from the neck down the feet. Yes.
Saw that dude.
Wait, is that the one that has the patches and the pins that coat probably weighs like 90 pounds? And I think the guy himself weighs 90 pounds, but hey. Yeah. He's probably been at SHOT Show since the very beginning.
He used to be bigger. That guy has been there. He's been there since my first SHOT Show, and I think he's losing weight from carrying all that stuff around as the coat gets heavier.
Good for him.
Yep. It's like a fitness plan.
Exactly.
For those of you that are just joining in, this is PDN Live. We're talking about SHOT Show that we all went to last week. Of course, we have Rob on here. We have Shawn Herrin from We Like Shooting and Barret Kendrick from Bearco Training. If you have any more questions, feel free to type them in live. If you want to connect with us afterwards, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere on the internet. If you really like what you are seeing and hearing, feel free to sign up for our newsletter. So let's talk about guns, guys. I mean, that's what we were all kind of there for SHOT Show, right? But before we do that, kind of gun-ish, but there was a live question that came in, Rob, about the media day or industry day at the range and who's allowed to handle the firearms. Is it just the company reps that are shooting, everyone watches, or is this hands-on, anyone can handle the firearms?
Oh, no, that's definitely hands-on. That's everybody that comes out there. And clearly some people who've never fired handguns before in their lives and probably shouldn't without formal training. There's some media people that show up that aren't from the gun industry and they get out there, and we're glad they're out there. It's really not, I think it's one of the reasons that Winchester, wants me or somebody like me out on the range to a certain extent, because and most of the ranges do have people qualified to be instructors, because there are a lot of people out there who are true, media coverage people, not just looking for the next story for the gun magazine they write or their firearms related or training related blog, but it's just general media that comes out there. So there are people out there truly, getting their first experience with shooting. And that's why it's so important that it is a controlled event, that, it's really well run. The Boulder Rifle and Pistol Club, their RSOs, they do a great job of keeping everybody safe. I've met the guys out there now year after year after year, and sometimes I get the same exact guy on my range. Other times I'm walking around and I see people who've been out there. They've probably been working for that range day, longer than I've been going to SHOT Show, some of them. And part of the reason that it's so structured is because, when you get somebody from, an Italian lifestyle magazine that wants to come over and see what the big American gun show is all about, and they're allowed to walk up to the table and pick up that gun, we need to make sure that everything's well organized and safe, because those people aren't getting individual safety briefings. We aren't checking them for concealed carry permit cards or any of that kind of stuff. So it's certainly, we have world-class shooters. There's people who are world champion, grandmaster, USPSA, whoever, that also work in the industry, going to check out the latest and greatest guns. I went out and shot one of the new guns. Hopefully they thought I did okay and that I was safe when I walked up to the table and picked it up. But they had, no idea who I was, potentially just some guy off the street with media credentials that is able to walk up and pick up a gun and get handed a loaded magazine. And it's fun. It's fun to see the smile on people's faces the first time they shoot and to be part of that experience.
And does this cost any money? Do people have to buy ammo or pay for anything when they go to this event?
Once they get in, it's all, obviously there's food trucks and things like that. But as far as it's not like you might get at a charity event or at a competition where you pay $5 to get to shoot the 50 caliber gun or whatever. It's not like that. Once you're in, you just walk up to the table and, I'm sure that there are people that have to be told like, hey, so can I answer any questions about that gun for you, sir? That you now shot 6 loaded magazines and you don't even seem to be writing any notes down or shooting any video or taking any pictures. There are a couple of those guys every year, but it's very rare. Most people are there to do business. It's not a fun with guns day. They're there to get experiences with equipment and talk to the people that represent that equipment.
Awesome. Thank you for answering. That was a live question that came in from one of our viewers. And again, if anyone has any questions about what we're talking about, feel free to chime in. Actually, we did just get another one. Can you say the name of that ankle holster again? Rob.
Barrett said the name. I think it's called the
what is it?
ankle responder from Safe Faster Defense.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
What's the real name?
The responder from Safer Faster.
No, you're correct.
Okay.
It's the SFD responder. So Safer Faster Defense Responder.
It sounds better when Alessandro says it because he's got that Italian accent, so it doesn't even sound like the same words coming out of my mouth.
Everything sounds better when Alessandro's talking.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys, let's talk about guns. We talked about kind of what we thought was just trendy, but Barrett, why don't you tell us like a firearm that you saw that you thought was legit awesome?
I saw a couple of things that I was excited with. One thing I guess that would have been different than the normal guns that we've been seeing. We've seen a lot of people come out with ARs. We've seen a lot of people come out with AKs. One of the guys that's been doing the AK thing for the past few years, from M+M Industries, I think it maybe officially released a prototype or a pre-production gun last year, but it is called the M10X. That firearm, basically what he did, he started kind of looking, well, here's the thing that people like about AKs. Here's what works well for the AK. Here's what really works well for the AR-15, and clearly everybody's a fan of the side charging handle, so he kind of grabbed that as well. So he kind of took all this and put together, a mutt type rifle from everything. That kind of sounds bad in talking about it and saying it, but it really simplified the different platforms. It really simplified the guns and ended up producing a 7.62 by 39 rifle that accepts the AK magazines. That's clearly not an AK, pretty much past that, but it has about half the parts that the AK did. I don't know if it's reliable. I haven't shot one. The recoil is really in line with the buttstock on it, so it's actually supposed to be pretty nice with shooting it. But I would like to get one. It has a pretty decent MSRP of around $1,200, but I'd like to get one in hand and put some rounds through it and see what it's like on the range. He kind of redesigned a lot of different things on it. It has an adjustable gas block. It's a piston gun, but an adjustable gas block, in order to, if you're changing different ammunitions or certainly throwing a suppressor on it.
Interesting. So simplifying what's already been made, but making it better. Nice.
Yes, made it better. As mentioned, half the parts you'd normally find in an AR or an AK.
Awesome. And Shawn, what did you find interesting? What firearm did you find interesting that you can see either changing the industry or at least making an impact this year?
Well, I've got to say that the one that I was really excited to see, because I'm a M&P fanboy, was the M&P 2.0. Got hands on. It felt great. It was, what I hoped it would be. It was iterative changes, nothing groundbreaking like that. And then there was, there's two other guns that I was really excited to put my hands on for the first time. One was the Hudson H9, just because their marketing was pretty amazing. And as a guy who works in media and is very interested in marketing stuff, their marketing was really good. I actually had a chance to interview their marketing director and one of the founders and guy who holds the patents on the gun. And the gun felt good. It felt good in my hands. It had some different features. They did things a little bit differently. Hearing about the way they designed it was interesting. It wasn't done in CAD and a lot of crazy 3D animations and blueprints and things like that. It was done in PowerPoint with multiple layers, and we've got a really, really good discussion with that coming out. And then not to be too homegrown here, but I was really excited to see the Avidity Arms PD10. It was something that I've had my hands on the blue gun when Rob was out here teaching a class that I was able to take, and it was just, it's something that I thought was again improving things that already exist, making things better without re-engineering the entire firearm. And I just think that things like that are the things that I'm interested in. Like, I don't want to see something that may or may not work, may or may not be a proven design. I want to see things that are done just a little bit different and with precise reasons for making the changes that they made. So I got to hold both those and deal with both those, and I was very interested in them.
Very interesting that you bring up the Hudson pistol. We actually had a question come in before the show, and since you got to talk to the marketing person, maybe they answered this question for you. But what need does that pistol fill in the defensive part of the industry, or what need does that pistol fill in general?
It's really a personal question that I think only an individual can answer, right? I mean, there's 1,000 guns for any need that anyone might need to fill, and at the end of the day, what is there? It's got the grip angle of a 1911. It's not a 1911 derivative. It's a striker fired pistol with a where they kind of moved around the mechanism, got a low bore access, so you got a flat shooting gun. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's nothing that's tremendously groundbreaking. It's just it's a clever design. Whether it holds up in the long run remains to be seen. But it fills whatever need anyone needs it to fill. Like I know people that carry full size 5-inch slide 1911s every day as their everyday carry. That fills the need that they need. I'm not going to go tell them they're wrong. I may not agree with them. I may not think that they're the smartest person in the universe. But I'm not gonna criticize them or tell them that they're wrong. Whatever need they have is the need that gun fills. And I think the Hudson H9 is no different from that. If you want a striker fired pistol that has a 1911 grip angle, that might be one that you check out.
Awesome. And Rob, you had a big launch this year as well with the Avidity Arms. Do you want to tell us about that? 'Cause I'm assuming that's what your groundbreaking firearm of the show is going to be.
The Avidity gun, I was really excited, obviously, about having a lot of people see it and touch it. For me, I mean, we've been trying to get this gun together. The idea over 2 years ago, we started with it. We've been shooting it, I guess, over a little over a year now. And this was the first time I got to see a lot of people shoot it. So the Avidity Arms PD10, the real guns are on their way back from SHOT Show, actually. But this is one of those blue guns. The Avidity Arms PD10 is something that I'm really proud of. I was really excited to see the feedback, to see people shoot it. We I think tripled the total number of people at least who have shot the gun or any prototype version of the gun by having it out at Media Day. We had scores of people shoot it out at Media Day. Something approaching 100 people shot it, and we probably had, less than 3 dozen people have shot any version of that gun over the last year that we've been shooting the prototypes. First the plastic ones, then the printed steel ones, and now the production prototypes. So that'll come to market later this year. Obviously, I was proud of that. But the gun that really stood out for me, that I was kind of out of left field. And the other thing is, remember that NESGW is another trade show, and it's a much more closed trade show that happened a couple months ago. So some of the guns that came out on the floor for the first time before by a lot of industry people. One of the guns that I had not, really wasn't even on my radar. Maybe it should have been, I don't know. But the Silencer Co. Maxim, out of left field, a gun built with a suppressor on it. That's it. It's a suppressed gun. It's not anything else. There's no version of that gun that isn't a suppressed gun. You can go find suppressed Ruger Mark IIs, and you can find suppressed 1911s and suppressed rifles of all kinds that are built with an integral suppressor. But here's a gun that I got to take apart and kind of look at what was going on inside, and there's a lot of innovation there. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with the Maxim. I don't know. It's kind of like that question you asked about the Hudson. Like, what niche does that fill? Because I could put an Osprey on the end of a PD10 and have a suppressed home defense gun, And is that gun going to be anything special or unique or important by itself? I think it certainly comes out of the gate as a innovative potential novelty for most of the people in the industry, most people in the community, but especially if the laws change on suppressed guns, I think you're going to see a lot of people own it. And it's probably going to be one of those guns that finds its way into a lot of home defense staging things like the tactical walls or a quick access safe or something like that, because that's one of the places where a suppressed gun makes a lot of sense for people inside of a vehicle, inside of a home. And while it's a big gun to think about carrying around all day, we may see some military law enforcement applications, and you may see that dedicated home defense staging gun application for that pistol. I did get a chance to go down and shoot that Hudson. You know, it's one of those guns. I was honestly afraid. They did such a good job marketing it. You know, you remember what's that company, Arsenal Arms, I think, they came out with that double 1911 thing.
Yeah.
A bunch of attention. It actually got a bunch of attention at the Euroshot, the EVA show, like 9 months before, 10 months before that next cycle at SHOT Show, and then it got a bunch of attention in America. And at the end of the day, that was a complete novelty to get attention on their company, and then boom, here comes the first strike. You know, the actual pistol that they intend for serious pistol use. So I was almost afraid the H9 was so radical looking, and the marketing hype was so big that it was going to be like a nothing, and then next year they're going to come out with a, you know, kind of more traditional striker fire gun or something. But, you know, clearly a lot of thought and engineering has gone into it. I'm not exactly sure what niche it fills, you know, just as much as I can articulate as the marketing side of the VideoArms where this fits into the niche. But at the end of the day, like Shawn said, this is going to be a great gun for some people. Some people are going to think the Hudson is a great gun for home defense or for carry. You know, I found it to be a striker fired Browning high power much more than a 1911, just given the nature of the grip size and kind of the feel of it with the capacity it does in 9mm. But I thought it was cool. But I thought the Maxim was cooler. And obviously I am excited about the Avidity gun.
So with the Avidity firearm, what accessories will be available for that?
Well, again, we actually, one of the last changes we made from this blue gun that Rings put together for us, they ran a couple batches of these. Now they have trashed the mold because we extended the accessory rail. We didn't go all the way to the end. I still don't like the idea of a full-size accessory rail adding, making it harder for the carryability and the comfort aspect of it. But we added one lug to accommodate more lights, lasers, things like that. We've got holsters, you know, Crossbreeds making holsters, Squared Away Customs making holsters, Castle Bravo, I have one here. G-Code's committed to making holsters for it. Several companies have. It's a question we get a lot. You know, we've all seen guns come to market that were, you know, obviously intended for self-defense, concealed carry, or maybe even law enforcement use that had no holster support whatsoever. You know, it's a question that was asked a lot about the Hudson because of its radical design in front of the trigger guard. You know, what holsters are available for it? I don't know what else. I'm sure that they've thought about it, but I don't know that they've got it. You know, I've got the holsters before I've got the gun, so we'll have good product support as far as that goes for sure.
So we had a live question come in for you, Rob. Do you think SHOT Show provided you a good platform to launch your new firearm?
Yeah, you know, SHOT Show is an absolute 100% necessary place to be. If you're going to have a new firearms manufacturing company, you're going to have a new firearm, it's definitely the place to be. I think that there are other shows that are also incredibly important. The NRA annual meeting is a great show because it's a consumer-driven show. It's you know, up to 100,000 people coming through over the course of the 3 days who are your end user buyers to ask the questions, touch the gun, to feel the gun, and possibly to go to their, you know, gun shop that next Monday or Tuesday and actually buy the gun. So there are other shows that are important also, but there's no doubt that SHOT Show getting so much feedback from the industry, which honestly for me happened, a lot of that industry, you know, people I've known for years, people in the holster side, people in the other manufacturers I work with, the guys from Springfield, a lot of them put their hands on that prototype gun for the first time last year at SHOT or at NASGW or at a previous NRA show. This was really more of a, hey, consumers, get ready kind of formal launch for the company, being out on the floor, talking to a lot more media. One of the things we talk about is, you know, like Springfield Armory, for example, they're tour sponsors, they're big sponsors here at PDN. As I said, I'm carrying an XDS 9mm right now. I will continue to carry the XDS as my primary carry gun, at least until we have, you know, proven models of the PD10. And even then, as people have pointed out, this is a full-size grip. You know, that shorter grip of the XDS is going to be easier to carry sometimes. We've got a lot of cool new guns from them as well. Obviously, everyone has seen the Saint that they launched right around Election Day, their new line of AR-15s. But they had some guns that got a lot of attention from their, you know, dedicated red dot gun. and then their bobbed EMP forage. You know, I'm not a 1911 fan. Everybody knows that, but the EMP is a gun that when somebody shows up to the range, I'm not going to cringe because I know 99% chance it's going to fail by lunch, like most of the 1911s out there. You know, that dedicated platform built on the 9mm works. You know, they built it right. So if you want a 1911, you want a carry gun, they came out with a 4-inch model with a bobbed grip to make it print a little bit less. And people are, I think pretty soon you're gonna be able to see a video that we did here at PDN on that gun. The Ruger gun, you know, the All-American, it came out last year. That's starting to get a lot more attention and a lot more traction, more holster support, things like that. Schmeiser came out with a new handgun that's going to be a striker fired gun. It's a model that's existed that they've taken in under their brand, and they're going to be bringing that to market. That's a high capacity double stack 9mm. Of course, Remington's had some trouble with their opportunities to launch handguns in the last couple years, but you know, they've got a new full size handgun that everybody saw for the first time last fall that is getting ready to hit the market. So that was an exciting gun to see people responding to as well. And just like the Avidity arms or any of the other guns, we got to see them on the ranges. And that's why I'm excited about the tour coming up, because there are so many new handguns in the defensive side of the industry. Really, it seems like there's more out there that's going to be hitting the range. That the Creed from Walther that potentially will be out on the ranges with us this spring, more so than we've seen. You know, the market really focused on ARs and rifles for a long time. I think this is really a big year for handguns. So I'm excited about what the training season has to offer, because that's where these guns are really vetted. It's out on the range in the end user's hands.
So Shawn or Barret, are either one of you Glock guys or Glock fanboys?
I hate to use the word fanboy. I do carry a Glock 19 the large majority of time. But I'm also very fast to recognize that they don't fit a lot of hands. They're not going to fit hands very well. So when I get into recommending firearms, you know, I'm not the guy that sits there and says that, you know, you need to have the Glock 19, that that's the only gun that's going to be a fit for concealed carry or a fit for defensive carry.
Were you surprised that they didn't, and this is coming in from a live question, were you surprised that there weren't any new releases from Glock? And any one of our guests here can chime in. Specifically the elusive Gen 5, they still seem to be focused on the MOS. Are there any thoughts on Glock and they're not really releasing anything or kind of staying quiet?
I would say that it's probably not ready. You know, we saw the pictures, we saw the release of the FBI version of the firearm that could potentially be the 5th gen Glock that came out months ago. And there were some issues that they're still trying to work with, and I'm sure that they'll get them worked out. And eventually, you know, maybe next year, maybe in our ratio, we'll see the 5th gen. I hope it includes, you know, maybe a couple of the features that we've seen as teasers, but at the same time, you know, I also hope it doesn't have a flared mag well.
Yeah. Shawn, any thoughts on Glock staying quiet on releases this year?
No, you know, I don't shoot Glocks as well as I shoot M&Ps, so I don't know a whole lot about them. My next firearm purchase is going to be a Glock 19, so you know, maybe next year I'll have a little bit more to say. But I'm surprised they didn't put out like the 41, which is you know, a much smaller version of the 42 and 43, but it shoots 22 mag or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll see that.
And our last topic tonight before we wrap up the show is celebrity sightings. It's always interesting to see who shows up at SHOT Show. I think last year I was bebopping around my booth, which really I'm a squirrel at a rave in my own booth. And I pretty much ran straight into Steven Seagal. And that's my fangirl moment. Was like, oh, I ran right into the back of Steven Seagal. Barret, what's been your celebrity sighting, odd or not, at SHOT Show?
I don't think I saw anybody this year. You know, maybe I was focused on other things, but it was strange because I've seen Steven Seagal. You know, I've seen some of the other people that end up on shows previous years, but you know, this year I don't recall seeing anyone outside of the industry.
Interesting. Shawn, what about you? Any celebrity sightings, usual or unusual?
You know, one of the non-shooting events that we did go to was a Brownells thing that we went to Wednesday night, I believe. One of those nights, they all kind of blend together. But I think that we saw Lou Ferrigno there. Met him, got a picture taken with him, which was kind of cool. But there's also a lot of, you know, firearms celebrities there. You know, a lot of the Brownells team. competitive shooters and just people who are well known in the industry. And that was kind of cool. Got to take a picture with all them and to just kind of take part in it. It was actually really cool. But yeah, Lou Ferrigno was probably the biggest celebrity I saw and got a picture taken with.
So you still get starstruck.
I tried to fight him. I was a little bit, I'd had a couple beers, but we'll see. He didn't strike me, so I guess not.
All right, we have one more live question in about firearms before we wrap this up. Barret, can you talk a little about CZ's P10C? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that was one that CZ has always been kind of a double action, single action, hammer fired, thumb safety. A lot of people have always enjoyed the CZ pistols. And I believe at some point previously, they made an attempt at a striker-fired gun, and they don't really want to talk about it. It kind of went that well. But I was surprised to see that they came out with one this year. And it's called the CZ, the P10C, the C standing for compact. It's a 15-round gun. It's striker-fired. This is, another firearm that they kind of have had the ability to sit back and pay attention to, some of the things that people have enjoyed about some of the other striker-fired guns and other things that maybe they didn't like, and they were able to come out with their own. So, that's another one. I think that if it comes out with CZ's reliability, that's another one that we'll see as a major competitor that will ultimately end up being on the range this year.
Awesome. So last question of the evening. Sorry, Rob, we don't care about your celebrity sightings. But did you have one, actually, real quickly? Did you have a celebrity sighting?
I mean, you ever I'm hanging out in the Eagle booth with Avidity because they're distributing Avidity and they're also distributing Metro, and Steven Seagal's doing a gun with Metro, so he's around all the time. Ferrigno's been around the industry all the time. I did not see any new celebrities like tied to products or even just wandering the floor that I haven't seen before. There's a lot of people that are celebrities from outside the industry that are also gun people that sometimes do, representation inside of the shooting events, things like that. Matt Hughes, of course, UFC fighter, has been around forever. There's a lot of country music stars and stuff. But I can't think this year that I've met anybody on the show floor that was a new outside the industry celebrity. So I guess I got to get out more or something. Maybe I didn't go to the right parties. I don't know.
Well, you did say that your party schedule was lesser this year.
It was muted. I had baby Pincus in town, and I showed up in town. I think I'm the only one who left SHOT Show healthier this year than I showed up. I showed up a little bit sick, and the baby was with me, and so I wasn't the party guy this year that I might have been in like 2003 or something.
So, Shawn, you raised your hand on not getting sick. Do you want to explain to viewers what the SHOT Show crud is?
Yeah, it's the most horrible sickness that you could ever experience, and pretty much everyone gets knocked down with it every year. I think last year I was sick before I left, and by the time I got home, I was sicker than I'd ever been in my life. The year before, I was sick the entire time. But it's just this super virus that exists that the doctors and medical science can't really explain. But we just get pelted with it. It's honestly awful. And this year so far, I've escaped. One out of 5 of our crew got sick, and the rest of us are doing just fine.
All right, seriously though, this is one of those things. I travel the world, drive around, do across the country every year, and everywhere I go, people would say, well, the weather here changes every 15 minutes in the spring. That's everywhere in the spring. I promise you, the other large trade shows, they got the same thing. You get 70,000 people together, you get 7,000 people together. People are going to get sick. They're out late. It's Vegas. They're drinking. Their immune system's worn down. They got to fly on planes. People get sick. It's not SHOT Show. It's not the gun industry. The Concrete Show was in town. They probably got sick. The Adult Video Awards were in town the same week. God knows what they got. Yep. The SHOT Show is not toxic in any special way.
No, it's just the convention crud.
Yes. Or it could very well be Vegas. I'm not saying it's not Vegas.
No, I usually get it everywhere we go, but I'm feeling a little bit healthier.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Parting thoughts for our viewers so we can wrap this up. Barret, can you tell us anything that you would like to see change in SHOT Show, or maybe change your experience, or something that you really think was totally awesome?
Same thing that I've noticed that seems to be changing is I think a lot of the manufacturers are actually starting to pay attention a little bit more on really what the consumer wants and what the consumer needs, and they're starting to, try to design that product. We've kind of seen that with several things, whether it be the PD10 or some of the other products that we've seen on the market. So that's kind of probably what I noticed that I'm most excited about. I'm probably least excited about continuing to be ran over, by crates and everything else. Derek Poole calls it the swagapotamus. Don't get run over by the swagapotamus. He literally got taken out by one last year and was laid up in the hotel room having to soak his toe for a couple of days.
Swag.
Derek's not a small. Derek's like a big guy. You should be able to avoid that. You Like Shooting did a great video on like all the craziness, like the etiquette faux pas at SHOT Show, which again is probably any convention. But Shawn, go check out We Like Shooting's feed, their social media. You'll see a great video poking fun at all the right things.
Awesome.
Nice. And Barret, if people want to find you after the show, where can they find you?
If they look me up, just look up Bearco Training, whether it be Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or bearcotraining.com. They can contact me through there.
Awesome. And then, Shawn, what are your parting thoughts, things that you'd like to see change, not change, and where can people find you?
I think that SHOT Show is a little bit better this year. I saw a lot less media running around, which I think they may have made the standards just a little bit more difficult to get in. I thought that was kind of nice for us, especially just because we weren't constantly battling with camera crews and things like that. I don't know if that's actually a thing that was true. It's just something that I observed and took note of. I thought that was pretty good. A lot of times at Industry Day at the range, there's people with credentials that are from Tumblr and things like that. And then you go look them up and they've got like 10 followers. So I think that they really made those a little bit more stringent this year. And I thought that was nice. I thought it had a really good effect on the show floor, and it really made our show a lot better. Like Rob said, we did the etiquette thing. It's a big joke. Obviously, these things just happen. It's not just SHOT Show. We just thought it would be funny, and apparently a lot of other people did too. The video's kind of gone a little bit viral, so it's been kind of fun. And I think the one thing that I think every time I go to SHOT Show or the NRA show, I just have to remind myself, us being in this industry, I think we just get so jaded sometimes because we see things, we see new things, we get to shoot things that no one else shoots. We get to have experiences that no one else has. And I think sometimes we just get a little bit jaded. So I always remind myself before I go and after I get home that, it's not about what I see. It's not about what I think is cool. It's about what the people who are out there that watch shows like this and watch the We Like Shooting show and train, it's about what they really think is cool. So, I just like to remind everyone that, experience what's out there and really experience it. Don't go in with a whole bunch of preconceived notions and just have a lot of fun. And I think, SHOT Show provides that. The NRA show is probably my favorite thing that we go to every single year, but SHOT Show is a great time. People can find us on all the social media. We're at WeLikeShooting.com, and We Like Shooting pretty much on everything else: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google+, YouTube. We are all over the place.
Awesome. And then Rob, your last parting thoughts on what you might like to see change, what you really like, and then where can we find you?
SHOT Show is good. I'll tell you what I would do if I were in charge. If all of a sudden NSSF, they call me up, they say, fly out to Connecticut, sit down with us, tell us what we need to do because you got your finger on the pulse of awesomeness and we want to be awesome. So what should we do? Cut it to 3 days for the trade industry and make the first day that the show opens for the consumer. Open it up, get that charge, get that excitement, and just let people go through there. It's chaos. I get it. Everyone in the industry just said, shut up, Pincus, stop talking. And I'm the last one to pander to the consumer. I'm usually telling people they're wrong or like do it differently or here's what I think. And I get that with what you really invested in, but I don't care. Here's what you need to know. Maybe what the industry needs to know is that there would be a lot of that excitement. Everything that Shawn just talked about, if we went from our industry day at the range to a show floor that is as big as the SHOT Show is, and I know I get it. It's a nightmare. It's chaos. It's probably never going to happen. But I think the industry could do what we need to do in 3 days and let the consumers in 1 day. I think people would travel for it. It's Vegas. It's easy to get in and out. And seeing the consumer's reaction to products really does help educate the manufacturer. It helps educate the exhibitor. It helps set the tone. If you did it, the reason I say the first day is because that's when everybody's upbeat and energized and ready to go. And then when that retailer comes in, when the guy who's actually industry comes in the next day, now the person in the booth says, oh yeah, we had 5,000 people came through our booth yesterday, and here's what they liked about the gun. And now the people in the booth are actually a little bit more educated. They're not guessing what the consumer is going to say about the newest gun. They know because they just had that experience of integrating with people hands-on, and the questions, comments, concerns kind of thing, and what people are excited about. I don't know. I think it would energize the show. That's the only change I would make. Otherwise, I mean, if you just cut it to 3 days, it probably would still allow us to get our business done, and maybe less people would get sick. I don't know. But it's a great 6 days out there. I think it would be really cool to involve the consumer in some way with the same energy and with the same effort. Because when I see what like a lot of companies do at SHOT Show, they put out 3, 4, 5 times the personnel and the booth space and the effort at SHOT Show than they do at show like NRA, which really is at the end of the day the end user consumer. And I think the reason is SHOT Show, you're selling in blocks of 500 or 1,000 to this wholesaler, or this retailer's buying 3 dozen, as opposed to the guy at the NRA who's going to maybe buy 1 of something on the floor, but he's going to take up time from 60 people. Well, we're already putting our best foot forward at SHOT Show. Let's let the consumer see some of that. That might be cool. Other than that, I'm excited about the Personal Defense Network training tour coming up, starting in late March. We're a little bit ahead of the game. I know that the crew at PDN headquarters in Minneapolis is excited that I can announce our next PDN Live is going to be with career law enforcement officer and instructor Jamie Onion, and we're going to be talking about interacting with law enforcement while armed. So that's our topic. Start thinking about questions you might have on the issues of not only if you pull the gun out and have to use it, what you do afterwards, but just in general during the traffic stop while you're traveling. If your jacket blows open and someone says, "Hey, that guy's got a gun," and the police, show up at the restaurant. What is it that you have that you want to know in regard to interacting with law enforcement while armed? So we'll be tackling that topic next week.
Awesome. And if people want to find you online, where can they find you?
If they're online, they can find me. If they aren't good at online, they're not going to be able to find me at all. And if they're not good at online, it doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
PersonalDefenseNetwork.com.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tonight's show. That was a lot of fun. I wish people could have seen the pre-show. We all did pocket dumps, which was really interesting. Might be a good topic for a PDN Live at some point. But thank you for joining in. If you have any questions, we will be posting this video later, and then feel free to ask questions, and Rob and guests will log on and answer them throughout the week. And if not, you know where to find them on the internet. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.